So welcome to my webinar. As anticipated, I will talk about the setup of the optogenetic assay for the Cav1.3 calcium channel by the use of FLIPR Tetra instrument. And I will touch some different topics in my talk. I will start with a very brief introduction of the optogenetic technique, just to understand which are the potentiality of this technique. In particular, speaking about light actuators and light sensors. And then I will speak about possible applications. Some of them are already being validated, and the possibility to use the FLIPR with this technology. Then I will show you how we developed an optogenetic assay for the Cav1.3 calcium channel by the use of Channelrhodopsin 2, and how we were able to set up the protocol to detect state-dependent blockers for this target. And then I will try to conclude with some of the main achievements of this work and some perspectives for the future. So I would like to start my talk with this comment I found on the web, which is showing how optogenetic technology started entering into the scientific world. More than 20 years ago, scientists discovered that unicellular organisms can change their function upon light stimulation. In particular, they do express ion channel protein, which can be activated by light, and they can induce protons or ions flux through them. So they thought this might be a very interesting technique, in particular for the modulation of, for example, electrical activity of neuronal cells. So you can imagine you can express this protein in a specific cell or cell compartment, and if you are able to stimulate with a light source, you would get a very nice control of the electrical activity. And really, these ones were the first experiments where optogenetics was shining the light in the mysteries of the brain. And now going a little bit more into the scientific part, I just want to remind you that optogenetic technology makes use of genetically encoded elements which are modulated by light. So they are mainly expressed in unicellular organisms. They very often have very simple structure, but most of them can be very well expressed also heterologically in mammalian cell lines. And so, due to the fact that they are genetically encoded, you can express in a specific cell or in a cell compartment. So you can achieve a very high degree of spatial resolution, and you can also modulate them by light stimulation. So you can switch on and off your tool in a millisecond timescale, which is very relevant for biological processes. And all these concepts of spatial resolution and temporal resolution are something that you couldn't achieve by drug stimulation, for example. And as I told you, the first applications were in the study of neural circuits in behaving mouse brains. And but due to the very big advantages and potentiality of this technology, optogenetics has been nominated Method of the Year in 2010. So now I just want to summarize which are the main optical tools which have been described and validated so far. In particular, we have many optical tools which are also called light actuators. They are proteins which can be activated by light, and then they can induce a biological response. And we also have proteins which can sense and measure a cellular perturbation, and they can change their light emission. So, for example, there are proteins which are activated by light and induce the function, for example, an ion transport, an enzymatic activity, or a G-protein coupled receptor signaling. If you want to study, for example, protein-protein interaction mechanism or translocation, you can use proteins which are activated by light, for example, the high-throughput or the UBR8 or the DRAMPA element. All these proteins encode for light-activated translocation mechanism. You can track your gene of interest activity. You can uncage your activity always by the control of a light stimulation. There are also a growing family of ligands, which can be actually activated in a very fast and reversible way by light. They are called photochromic ligands, and they can also be tethered to a specific receptor of interest. And the last family of optical tools, let's say, are genetically encoded sensors. These proteins are genetically encoded, and they can sense changes in a cellular environment. For example, we have membrane voltage sensors, and we have calcium sensors. Some of them are very well known, like the GCAL. All these tools are very important because due to the fact that they can be, for example, activated by light, you could achieve a degree of precision of stimulation that you couldn't achieve with any drugs or chemicals. And because you can deliver the light stimulation in a very fast way, you can do it in a reversible way. And this is something really very powerful. And the optical tool that I will show you today belongs to a Channelrhodopsin family, so an ion channel protein activated by light. Most of these optical tools have been already very well validated at different levels. For example, many opsins have been well characterized in vitro, also photoswitchable tethered ligand receptors, and also many genetically encoded indicators. I have to say that most of these experiments are performed with very complex instrumentation with very high power of light source. Then about the in vivo application, as I told you, these were the main application of the optogenetic technologies, where opsin, sensor, enzymes, and very complex mechanisms have been very well validated in animal studies. There is also a very interesting and growing field in ex vivo application, where the optogenetic manipulation of, for example, neuronal cells seems to be very effective in the treatment of some CNS disease. While concerning the drug discovery, optogenetic technology has not been applied very much until now. So we decided to investigate a little bit this part. And as we mainly use the FLIPR Tetra System as a screening instrumentation in-house, we decided to investigate if optogenetic technology would be suitable to be used with the FLIPR system. So probably you will know very well this instrument, but with this instrument, you have in your hand an instrumentation which can read in a miniaturized 384-well format. You can simultaneously stimulate and measure different wavelengths of fluorescence. Also, you can run multimode experiments, so the simultaneous measurement of different wavelengths. You can play with different intensity, duration, or interval of your light stimulation and measurement. And of course, all the 384 wells are measured at the same time. So it would be useful to apply the advantages of optogenetic technology because you could achieve, for example, the stimulation only of your optical tool without altering other cells or compartments. With the FLIPR, you have the possibility to run multiparametric experiments, but it's very important that by using light, you can deliver very fast and reversible stimulus. So, of course, there are a lot of questions about that. For example, you need to demonstrate that your optical tool is well expressed in your cell lines. And of course, we need to demonstrate and to understand if the FLIPR instrumentation, for example, has the suitable wavelengths to study our optical tool, and also if the light power of the LED source was enough. So the first project that we developed was using Channelrhodopsin tool, exactly the mutant D156A. This is a light-activated ion channel, and so upon stimulation with blue light, these opsin transmembrane proteins, which uses all-trans-retinal as cofactor, rapidly translocate cations into the cells, mainly sodium ions and also potassium. it has a very extended open state, so the half decay time of this ion channel is about 7 minutes. So this will induce a very sustained and prolonged manual depolarization. So we thought to use this depolarizing tool to induce a depolarization to activate the voltage-gated Cav1.3 calcium channel. You know, this is an L-type calcium channel, which is a very important CNS therapeutic target. And it's very important for the drug screening of this target to find compounds which are selective over the Cav1.2, for example, cardiac form, but it's also very important to find compounds which are more active on the pathological state of the channel. In the cartoon, in the lower part of the slide, I just show you a reminder of the functioning of the channel. The channel is cycling between different physical states. When the membrane voltage is low, the channel is closed. Then when you have depolarization, the channel opens, allowing the calcium ions to influx into the cells. Then it rapidly undergoes into this inactivated form and then needs to cycle back to the closed state to be able to open again. So state-dependent blockers are molecules which preferentially bind the inactive state of the channel. And there are some possible issues in setting up this kind of assay. For example, we need to know if the channelrhodopsin can be well expressed recombinantly, and of course, we don't know if the LED intensity of the FLIPR is enough to deliver the good blue light stimulation. We don't know if the depolarization will be enough to activate the Cav, and also we need to set up a state-dependent protocol for this target. So this is how we set up our Cav1.3 recombinant assay. So we permanently transfected HEC293 cells with the Cav1.3, the core subunits and also the accessory subunits. And we detected the calcium influx by the use of the calcium-6 molecular devices dye at the FLIPR system. So these cell lines also permanently express the Cav2.3 immunorectifier potassium channel. This channel is expressed in the cells to lower the resting potential of this cell line, thus avoiding the activation of Cav1.3. So this Cav2.3 channel can also be used to modulate the Cav1.3 channel by using a classical potassium protocol, let's say, approach. So when the cells are best in low extracellular potassium, the membrane voltage will be very low and the Cav1.3 channel will be in a resting state. If you increase the extracellular potassium concentration, the Cav2.3 will allow potassium to influx and to depolarize the cells. So the Cav1.3 channel will be activated. We express in this cell line also our optically activated depolarizing tool, so the Channelrhodopsin that I showed you before. So our goal was to set up an optogenetic assay where when the cells are kept in the dark, the membrane voltage will be at the resting value, so we will have a resting condition. While after blue light stimulation delivered by FLIPR, we would get a depolarization, and so we can modulate the activity of Cav1.3 channel. The first experiments were, of course, to demonstrate if the blue light of the FLIPR was able to activate the Channelrhodopsin and so to induce a depolarization, a sustained depolarization as expected from this Channelrhodopsin. So the protocol that we use, we stimulate with the blue light the Channelrhodopsin, and we simultaneously measure the membrane depolarization as a fluorescent signal through the membrane potential fluorescent dye. In this panel, you can see that when we apply this first blue light stimulation, the cell responds with a very robust and sustained membrane depolarization. You can see here the increasing fluorescence of the membrane potential sensitive dye. And we also characterize the kinetic profile of this depolarization because we also measure over time the value of the fluorescence of the membrane potential dye. For example, after 5, 10, 15, 20, and 30 minutes after the first blue light stimulation, you can see that the membrane voltage progressively repolarized, and this was consistent with the kinetic properties of the Channelrhodopsin. So these experiments demonstrate us that, first of all, we could achieve a good expression of the channelrhodopsin in our assay, and also, very important thing, the LED was strong enough to activate this channelrhodopsin. We could measure a very robust depolarization, and also the repolarization kinetic was very in good agreement with what expected with this channelrhodopsin. So we went on with the characterization of the assay, and so we want to determine if the blue light-induced depolarization was also able to activate the calcium influx to the Cav1.3. This cartoon is just to remind you the cycling of the Cav1.3 channel between the different states. So when we applied a blue light stimulation to activate the channelrhodopsin, and this was used simultaneously to measure the fluorescence of the calcium-6 fluorescent band. And you can see in this panel that the blue light stimulation induced a very strong and robust calcium signal into the cells expressing the Cav1.3 target. So then we set up a protocol for the study of Cav1.3 channel in different states. And we achieved this by repetitive blue light stimulation of our cells. As you know, when Cav1.3 channel opens, it rapidly undergoes into an inactivated state. So what we did is a repetitive light stimulation to follow the time course of the recovery of Cav1.3 channels from inactivation. You can see in the right low panel, if you immediately repass the same place, for example, after 5 minutes, the depolarization will still be on. So the Cav1.3 channel will be still in inactivated form. But if you wait a certain amount of time, you can do it in different places. For example, if you repass your plate 10 minutes after the first stimulation, you can see that about 50% of the Cav1.3 channel are still in inactivated form. And this was important because by this way we could set up a condition when we can study the channel in a resting condition. So, I mean, in the first blue light stimulation, or in the half inactivated condition. I mean, if you repass your plate after 10 minutes. So these experiments could demonstrate that the channelrhodopsin depolarization was very well activating the Cav1.3 signal, and also we could also set up a protocol of repetitive light stimulation to study state-dependent blockers. So what we did next is we validated our optical assay with some known state-dependent blockers. I just shown you here the induced blocker, which is a known state-dependent blocker. And if we run the light protocol, we can determine the dose response curve and the IC50 of this blocker, either in the resting state, so by stimulating the cells with this blue light, or also we can study the pharmacology in the calcium-activated state by repassing the cells after 10 minutes. And you can see that we could measure very well the IC50 leftward shift of this compound as expected from literature. Then we completely validate our assay with different platforms. For example, with touch clamp analysis, you can clamp the cells at different membrane voltage. You can previously determine in the right panel, you can see the half maximal inactivation potential of this cell line. So you can run exhibiting pharmacology either in resting condition, for example, clamping the cells at the minus 90 millivolt potential, or in partially inactivated condition, for example, by clamping the cells at the minus 60 millivolt condition, which is very similar to the membrane voltage of pathological neurons. And also in this case, we could obtain a very similar electron IC50 to what obtained with the optogenetic assay. We also completely characterize the assay by the use of the classical potassium protocol, so by using the tier to modulate the membrane voltage and the channel states. In the low right panel, you can see that we first determine the concentration of potassium in which about 50% of the Cav1.3 channels are in an inactivated state. And then on the left part of the graph, you can see that this radical dose response curve can be also measured with the potassium protocol. If you load, for example, the cells in physiological 4 millimolar potassium, you will obtain a resting condition of the channel. While if you load in high potassium concentration, you can appreciate the electron shift of the compound also by using this protocol. And so the main conclusion of this work was that Channelrhodopsin 2 was suitable to set up a very robust and reliable assay for the Cav1.3 channel and also for the detection of state-dependent blocker of this target. So which are the main differences between running an optical or a classical high-throughput screening for such target like Cav1.3? As a stimulus, when you're running a classical protocol, you are modulating extracellular potassium concentration. This might influence some other cellular processes, and of course, this is not reversible because once you inject your potassium into the cells, you cannot take out, of course. When you are running an optical assay, you are using the light as a stimulus. So you can imagine with the light, you are just activating your optical tool. So these might have really less off-target effects. And of course, the light stimulation can be fast and also reversible. So you can play with repetitive light stimulation as we did in our protocol. And this means also that you don't need to inject any compound. And for example, to run a state dependency protocol with the classical approach, what you usually do is using different potassium concentrations in different places. In these experiments with the optical assay, we use repetitive light stimulation on the same places. And so I have to say also that we validated this assay in a real HTS format, let's say, and it shows very good performance in a pilot screening that we did. So let me give you some possible future perspective of the use of optogenetic technology at the FLIPR or in the drug screening process in general. For sure, one of the most interesting future perspectives would be the use of fast kinetic Channelrhodopsin. So I mean Channelrhodopsin which are upon light activation can open and close very, very fast. This would be very useful too because you can imagine you can stimulate electrically yourself in a very precise way with different frequency, duration, and this would be very, very similar to an electrophysiology instrumentation, but in a completely HTS format. Another possible application would be, for example, the use of some of the other options, anion or proton conducting, to obtain really a full control of the membrane voltage, or, for example, also to induce pH modifications into the cells. And also other photoregulated tools like enzyme or, last but not least, the development of assays which are expressing genetically encoded sensor would be very useful to obtain a genetically targeted full optical HTS. And actually, we have ongoing a lot of activities in many different projects in this field. So we hope to have some new results soon to share with you. Just as a conclusion, what are the main messages that we can take away and use from this work? The first one is that the Channelrhodopsin show a very good functionality at the FLIPR. So this is an interesting optical tool that can be used at the FLIPR. The second message is that we were able to develop a stable HTS-compatible assay for the Cav1.3 target by the use of Channelrhodopsin optical stimulation. But I think that probably the most relevant message is that we can think about using the FLIPR for running light-modulated high-throughput screening, and this will really open the biggest possibility for the futures. And just let me finish with the acknowledgement of all my colleagues who contributed to this work, and I'm happy to take any questions.